Welcome to Grief Uprooted, a podcast dedicated to sharing your grief stories. Together, we embark on the mystery of one's grief journey as they learn to live, heal, and be courageous in a world rooted in trauma. Join myself, Christine, in an open discussion to help you uproot the grief in all our lives. I am an award-winning author, professional speaker, and humanitarian in the field of grief and trauma. I want you to be part of the discussion. Welcome to Grief Uprooted. I'm Christine Jornetter-Landon, a grief and bereavement trauma specialist, and I've been in this career for over 24 years. Today, we're going to get straight to the heart of what people are asking when they're grieving. Have you been asking yourself or ever found yourself questioning your grief, wondering how long will this last? Is what I'm feeling normal? If so, this episode's for you. We're going to break it down with no fluff, just get right to it, to the three main questions we ask while we're grieving. Question number one, am I normal? This question is asked in so many different capacities when it comes to mental health. But when we look at it from a grief perspective, am I normal? Is what I'm feeling normal? And what exactly does normal mean? I think what we're saying when we say, is what I'm feeling or am I normal, is what is the collective feeling? What are the majority of people feeling? Well, grief is not linear. It does not go in a straight line. It's messy. It's all over the place. And the truth is that whatever you're feeling right now in your grief, that messiness of emotions, that whirlwind of a mind, that pinwheel of a mind, it's spinning. Whatever you're feeling is normal. It really is. You see, because grief doesn't go in a straight line, so many times we're being told that there are stages we can go through and we have to hit these markers. But there really is no markers. There's no straight line. It goes like this. And sometimes it goes like this. That means you can go forward and you can go backwards. You can spin one way, you can spin another way. What you're feeling is normal for you and grief. Grief is not linear, it is messy. It is all over the place. So there are some things that we want to look for. One, you need to realize you're not broken, that you're grieving and these emotions are part of the natural human process. Grief is a natural human process. So that whirlwind you're feeling, that turmoil inside, that is a normal process. But sometimes we want to look out for some other things, such as any types of thoughts that may be coming into our minds, like, I'm not like anybody else. I'm not the same. I shouldn't be here anymore. Anything that makes you feel like you don't belong, we should reach out. We should reach out to each other. You can reach out to a friend. You can share your thoughts with a coach, a counselor, a therapist. In today's world, our grief is not meant to happen alone. It is meant to happen together, combined together. Because grief does not go in a straight line. There are not markers that we're hitting. It is a whirlwind. It is an experience that is normal to the human condition. That means we are meant to experience love and grief. So the simple answer to, am I normal? Is yes, you are. This is grief. Question two, I've actually been very much fascinated with because with over 24 years in the field of grief, this is a question that I get I think from every client I've worked with, how long will this last? And I really love to explore the question in depth because the short answer is as long as it takes. Um, it doesn't have a deadline. Just grief doesn't have these milestones that has to be we have to hit. Um, there, we are fed the stages of grief, but those stages of grief were created for the dying, not for the living, who is living this experience of grief every day of their lives. So it takes as long as it takes for you. I experienced grief at a very young age of 14, and it was a traumatic death of my brother who fell over the Niagara Falls Gorge. He was 19 and I was 14. And often working with children and listening to them express their grief and where they were in their grief, like were they actively talking about it? Were they quiet about it or shut down? I love to use the analogy of being in a bottle. And it's as if sometimes we want to take the top off the bottle and we want to share our grief. We want to talk about it. And then other times we want to put the top on the bottle. So it's messy inside that bottle. And then there's times where I've actually met people, colleagues, who have said, don't talk to me about my grief. Don't bring it up, please. I'm not ready. So, really, when you think about it, it lasts as long as it takes you to grieve. Now, this doesn't give you the ability to go, okay, well, I'm not going to grieve. I'm going to stick it in a bottle and put it over there. Because what happens is, we all know what happens when we don't talk about our emotions and we don't express ourselves. They manifest in our bodies. So, it's always there and it's always present. And it isn't like we can check it off and go, well, I hit denial and then I went through this and then I went through that and eventually I did this. It doesn't work that way. It's it's all over. And that's fine because your mind and your body are trying to figure out all these different emotions that it's experiencing that it may have never experienced, or you've experienced numerous losses and deaths in your life, and you've been able to just emotionally go through it, like simply flow through it. And then all of a sudden it starts to burst. It's like that bottle just burst at a specific age. Another thing that we want to look at um, when we think about will it last or how long will it last, is that there are moments in our lives that grief is always brought back. For myself in particular, I lost my brother at 14. So when I graduated from high school, was brought back to my mind that when I looked out, Rob wasn't there. When I went to get married, there was one groomsman missing. When I went to have my first child, do I name them after my brother? You see, that's where grief is integrated. It's integrated into who we are. So I don't think, even know how long will this last is a very, very, very prominent question I hear. Um, it's really one of those things that it's a lifetime in a sense for myself because I'm often experiencing that moment of missing my brother, going, wow, what would he be doing now? And this pivotal moment, I would love for him to have met my children. But I think the takeaway from this question is don't rush yourself. Healing isn't about forgetting. It isn't. It's learning to live alongside your grief. It's learning to live alongside these amazing memories you have of your loved one or your pet or a relationship or anything you had in your life that was taken from you. It's learning to live alongside our grief. It's learning to be able to look at those memories and integrate them. But now I'm going to take you down a little different path. How long will the pain of this last? I often think that is the real question that people are asking. And again, as long as it takes. See, when those emotions are erupting and we're not thinking that we're normal, like question one, we tend to push down. We tend to just, poof, I want to feel it. But if we walk through these emotions, realize they're not linear, realize there's no stages or things we need to hit, that we need to embrace these emotions, feel them. But we do that in a very safe environment, and we don't do that alone. We do that together in support groups. We do that by expressing and talking. We do that by being out in nature. We do that by binding together. There are some things in life that are not meant to do alone. We create life with someone else. So when we're grieving that life we created, we should do that with someone else too. Grief is the opposite of love. Grief is just love looking for a place to settle within you, your mind, your body. The takeaway is it takes as long as it takes. Question 3. Will I ever get over this? Grief changes you drastically. And, you know, the honest answer, no. Mm-mm. But that doesn't mean you won't move forward. Grief changes us and causes us to see the world in a different perspective. Everything we look at now is different. It could be possibly all the things you looked at before, you see completely different now. The people I've had on Grief Uprooted, they've done a complete 180 and started new careers. They've written books. They've they've shared their stories nationally. They've done so much in changing the world to a better place with their grief. So, will I ever get over this? No, you won't ever get over this. But there will be days that you'll find ways to honor your loved one that you never knew existed in you. Then you'll be living with these memories and you'll be consumed by them. There will be other days where you feel like you're drowning in in all of it. And one day, after drowning and feeling consumed by all this, you will go, I made it. I actually don't feel that overwhelming weight on me. I actually don't feel that heaviness that's holding me down in my home or not letting me move forward, not allowing me to love the people that are in my life. And sometimes it just slaps you in the face. Like you're like, whoa. And then other times you see it slowly creeping in. Grief doesn't go away, but your capacity to carry grief, understand grief, and to truly live grows. Your ability to learn to love again and live, oh, it's a new kind of strength that you never thought was possible. And that resilience starts to form in you. You start to move forward and you feel this resilience so much that you too will start writing your story. You too will become an author and share that journey that you experienced that you thought you would never make it through. And your story will heal so many. Your story will impact somebody else. Even if just one person, even if just one person can say, man, I can relate to that. I remember feeling like that. With the death of my brother, sibling loss, it just wasn't really talked about back in the late 70s, early 80s. And, now we are talking about it. So, healing comes throughout the decades. I think I've healed more in the last 10 years because we're talking about it now. Mental health is a priority now. Grief is seen in so many different things, such as addictions. It's seen in all of our mental health issues. There's this underlying issue called grief that hasn't been resolved, that hasn't been talked about. And it leads to other things, physically, mentally. So we need to go to that core, that root, and realize that it isn't something we get over. It's something that's integrated into us. But that integration isn't something to say is horrible or awful. That integration changes you. It gives you this ability to express and connect with empathy and compassion. And it allows you to be resilient so that you too can help others. You too can take your story and share it with others. And through that story, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing the world. It's only together that we grieve, and it's only together that we heal. So, will I ever get over this? The simple answer is no. But that doesn't mean you won't move forward. You will. And you will heal. And you will feel that lifting of overwhelming pressure slowly go away. And you'll realize that you too have resilience, strength, and courage to continue living and loving those people in your life. If you've ever asked yourself any of those 3 questions, know this: you're not alone. Grief is a journey, it is not a destination. And if you need support, seek someone to talk to, join a group, reach out to us here at Grief Uprooted. I would love to hear your story. Know this, that you grieve in your own way and on your own time. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. You can reach out to robertspress.com. We carry over 500 different grief resources to help the grieving. You're also welcome to share your grief story with us. We're always interested in finding those new authors in the area of grief. Thank you for being with me today here with this episode. And if this episode resonates with you, or you know someone who is grieving, do pass it on and let them know they're not alone in their grief. Together, we are uprooting grief one conversation at a time. Grief Uprooted professional grief and empowerment coaching are not to be used as a substitute for professional advice by legal, medical, financial, business, spiritual, or other qualified professionals. All our products and services are designed for grief empowerment through learning and sharing of one's lived experiences.